Good morning. My name is Angel, and this is the 14th episode of Saying Goodbye. And I've been watching a lot of my videos and, like looking back at everything and how things have taken place and how things have unfolded. And man, we're like all the way up to almost the end of the beginning. The end of my story being led right now in the present. And last episode I was talking about my infidelity and breaking up the family and doing it, like just a lot of things they happened. And when that happened, my mom had passed away, and there were a lot of good things. I got to be there. I got to show up. I got to be present. I got to, be the man that it was important for me to be. It was important for me to be a stand-up guy in one way, and then in another, I was hurt. I felt betrayed by whatever I felt betrayed by, and then I went and I took my own action and doing the things that weren't right. Living in a way that wasn't good, that I wouldn't like, for these things to happen to my daughter or my own mother or any, woman out there that I love, that I consider family. And it's not my proudest moment, but it's the truth. And as I go on thinking about that, like from the point of when my mom had passed away and I had, taken care of everything, and everything seemed to start to like, everything sort of like went haywire. Like I went and my mom passed away, and then I'm starting to fight with my significant other, and I start doing like a lot of things that I shouldn't have been doing. And in that process, while I'm trying to grieve and do things like that, my uncle, that was, I always considered him my father, he had gotten real bad. He had gotten real sick. And, I just thought about when my mom died, my uncle got sick, and we had found him like wandering around and stuff like that. Like he started losing his mind. And I never got a chance to grieve. I never got a chance to like, to just deal with how I felt like with my mom passing and all that stuff. And I never, at that point, I didn't just, the dust didn't get to settle. And my mom passed away, and then my uncle's sick, and a lot of things are starting to happen. And like his wife really couldn't handle dealing with him. She had to work. She had to go to work and do things, and there was nobody to take care of him every day. And he started getting really bad. I don't want to say too much about what started transpiring when he got sick, but I know that from the point of when my mom died to the point where he died, it was like a year and a couple of months. So it was fast. It was fast. And for me, like my mother, she was my mother, and then my uncle was like my father. Like he raised me, he took care of me, he was always there from when I was from when I was young. You know, like my uncle took me out of foster care, and you know, he was like everything to me. He was my hero. You know, he meant everything to a lot of us. You know, like growing up, and everything was about Tio Landy. Everything was about him before he started having his kids. We were his kids. Me and you know, my other cousins and things of that nature. We, you know, even like my friends would love to be around him, and you know, we just, you know, he was loved by all of us. You know, we had a tremendous amount of respect. He walked around, he held his head high. He, you know, like, he'll fight with anybody. Like, that was just the whole thing growing up. You know, like, that was the whole concept, that, you know, you would have to get violent at some point. And that's the way that he lived his life. And like those were the things that I took from him. And he was always like, you know, you don't gotta be scared, you gotta fight, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta, you know, handle yourself in the street, because you know, people will try to hurt you. And you know, some of those things, they help me, you know, to survive. They helped me to live. You know, those were rules to live by. Like, there were people out there, they were up to no good. They didn't care who they were going to take along the way. And when you grew up in the street, you knew that you had to fight. Win, lose, or draw, there was no question about it. You had to, you know, put your hands up. It don't matter who it was, when it was, why it was. And, you know, I learned that from him at home first, and that's the way I had to carry myself, because the truth is that I didn't want to fight. The truth is that, you know, like, I was scared. Like, I didn't want nobody to bother me. You know, when I was in the streets growing up, it was either be violent or they were going to be violent towards you. If you showed you was even scared a little bit, there was going to be 10 dudes lined up waiting to fight with you. And, you know, I just learned at an early age that if you just struck first and you struck hard, more than likely, you know, you was going to win that fight. And, you know, you had to push. And I did a lot of things out of fear. It wasn't something that I walked around and I'm saying, oh, I just want to have a fist fight today. It's just growing up in the era that we grew up in. It was, for the boys, it was a rite of passage. You know, a lot of times friends were being picked on. I didn't like it. I wanted to get in. And I never knew how to mind my business. Booby always told me that, like, yo, you need to learn to mind your business. Not every fight is yours. And, you know, like, there was a lot of things I didn't like. And then, you know, people, like, they thought of me, like, as a bully, and I was just an asshole. You know, a lot of times I just didn't care who I argued with or how the argument went, as long as I was arguing with somebody. And I learned that now about myself, that I was just so hostile within myself. And I was just in pain. I was suffering, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So the way that I dealt with that, I got drunk, and I acted out in ways that I shouldn't have acted out in. And that's just my story, you know, and that's why I got 13 years clean without drinking, because the alcohol was something that just amplified my emotional state, and it amplified my insecurities, and it amplified my anger, and I never wanted to feel that pain. So then I got angry, and I justified being violent, because I just didn't want to feel the pain of that little boy that just never could be just a little boy. You know, never getting a chance to just, you know, like, feel love or just feel confident in the fact that you can't just be an innocent child. that wasn't my story. I wasn't able to be an innocent child. And from the moment for as long as I could remember, we just lived in a crazy neighborhood, and like where we lived, it was extremely poor, and in poor neighborhoods there's a lot of violence. That's just it's like barbaric. People are poor, they're angry, and when drugs are involved, alcohol is involved, yeah, shit goes haywire. You're selling drugs, doing drugs, and unfortunately, that's the shit that I had to grow up in. And thank God that I'm here today to tell my story to whoever could listen. To tell my story so that other people could say, yeah, I had it just as bad. I had it worse, and I had it worse, and this guy made it through. Maybe I can make it through. Just give somebody a little bit of hope. It don't matter what it is, just a tiny bit. Anything that'll help somebody get over the hump and push through and be able to live, like a decent life. Because we all deserve that, And my mom, when she passed away, it wound up being like quick that she started declining. And I dealt with that for I think anywhere from 8 months to a year. I don't know. It was so much going back and forth to New York, and then after that, I didn't have to travel no more, and I had some destruction right here, right in front of me. It was my uncle, and to see a man that I love so much, and that was like such a strong person, and to watch him deteriorate at the rate that he started to decline, that shit it broke my heart, man. It really it hurt, and it hurt real deep, because I was still with the wound of my mom just passing away. And then my mom just passed away, and then I jumped right into wanting to be there for my uncle, because I felt like I owed him. I felt like I owed him that much. I went through things, and things were said. He told me things, and he broke my heart in a lot of ways when Booby passed, and he was angry at me, and I understand. I didn't deserve that shit, and I didn't deserve to be spoken to in a lot of ways, because I lost my brother too. And these were the series of unfortunate events. Family fights when people die, and they break up, and a lot of times they're never the same, whether it be over money, disagreements, who paid for the funeral, who didn't pay for the funeral, all the things that we go through. You think that death would be, especially like murder or just any death in a family, no matter how it happens, you think that, people that love this person and they were all together and they are family, you think that people will get together, and that's not the way it happens. People who show a hatred for each other, oh fuck this person died, I don't gotta pretend to like this person anymore. And then it's just so easy to attack somebody that to disrespect somebody and that's the truth. It's easy to go and steal from somebody, it's easy to go and hurt them in ways, because in a lot of ways what's coming back when you hurt them, when you treat them in certain ways, and it's messed up, because they're not gonna go and grab a gun and hurt you. It makes it easy for somebody to come and just you know, say the nastiest things, man, and say the most destructive shit that in a lot of ways is like unforgivable. And you know, like, thank God for me that even though the words hurt me, and even though, like, you know, my mother wasn't around and she wasn't there the way that a parent should be for a child, and it wasn't like a positive thing, I made a choice, right? I made a choice to be who I wanted to be. I made a choice to decide what that meant for me, for Angel. You know, decide what that was. And I decided that I was gonna be there for my mother. And then when it came time that my uncle started getting sick, you know, I would come around, and he wound up getting put in a nursing home, man. And I would go visit him, you know, and I would watch him. And for a little while, he wouldn't even know that I was there. You know, like after a little while, he would recognize me, and I would just stand away and just like look at him. You know, because I was still like in shock of my mother passing. I was going through all of that, and I didn't even get a chance to like recover. I mean, you never really recover from something like that. But you know, I didn't get a chance to like get through that emotion and go through that grievance of everything that I was going through. It was, my mom died. I dealt with everything systematically, like how I had to deal with things. Then I'm fighting with my significant other. I start stepping out. I start acting out. I don't care. I'm starting to tear my life apart from within. And then my uncle's sick, and I gotta, you know, like, not that I have to, but, you know, I start going to the nursing home. I start visiting him. I start, you know, being there the best I could. And, you know, like, I would go there. I would show up. I would cut his hair. You know, I would ask them permission, like, hey, can I bring my own machines? I'll clean up. I'll do this. I'll do that. And they, you know, like, the people in the nursing home in Easton, man, they were beautiful people, man. Like, they allowed me to come there with my machines and cut his hair and, you know, like, take care of him and love on him and bring him food and stuff. And they never, ever, like, they never told me no or anything like that. You know, it was just a lot of love that I was able to go and show them, and a lot of affection that, you know, like, in my heart, that I got to show up. I got to show up for him. You know, like, I got to be there for him the same way he was there for me. You know, it was important. It was important for me, man. It meant a lot that I could let bygones be bygones, not take things personal, understand that we family, and that I don't have to be angry at him for things that were said. I don't have to, like, treat him messed up because now he's sick. And, you know, the man's not his bad decisions. You know, for me, I made a lot of bad decisions in my life, and I don't want to be judged by the bad decisions that I've made. You know, like, I would like, you know, for somebody to have some compassion and say, you know, like, yeah, he messed up before, but still, you know, he's a good person. You know, and I don't know what people are going to say when it's my time. And that's not for me to worry about. You know, what's for me to worry about is that I do what makes me feel right. And what made me feel right is, despite our differences, my uncle helped me when I couldn't help myself, when I was in foster care. And he took me out of foster care, and he brought me to his house. And yeah, we went through things like any family does. You know, some things are worse than others. And still, the experience of being with family members, you know, it's probably, I felt like it was better for me. I thought it was better for me, like, to be with family. I don't know if it would have been better if I would have stayed in foster care and I would have been raised by the state. You know, maybe I would have done things different. Who knows? But that's not my story. That's not what happened. That's not what took place. What took place was that, you know, he did bring me to his house. And the little bit that he had, he shared it with me. And for that, I'll be forever grateful. That's what I'm grateful for. He shared his family with me. He shared his kids with me. He shared his wife with me. He shared his life with me. And for that, that's why I showed up for him. Because it was the right thing to do, despite if I was a little angry. You know, I was destroyed when Booby died. He loved Booby, like they had their own relationship. And of course he was angry. Of course. And, you know, shit happened, it got ugly. And I never held that shit against him, though. You know, I didn't. I couldn't. Like, I knew who he was, and he did what the Landy did. He got violent, and he acted out, and that was up to him to do. However he felt he needed to do things, you know. But it comes a point in time where, when things could be falling apart around you, and for me, like, things were falling apart in ways that, this was like the third or fourth time in my life that everything just fell apart. And, you know, I just felt like I was just being tested in ways that somebody should never be tested. You know? Losing people like that in your life, like losing the people that mean the most to you in your life, like back to back. I mean, losing Booby was, you know, it happened so fast, and Booby was like everything to me. Like, I looked up to him and I loved him, and he was my big brother, but I respected him like more than that, and I always listened to him. And, you know, then it came to, you know, my parents, like the people that, when I was a little kid, and they were there, which was my mother, and then, you know, my uncle. And I always wanted to be like my uncle. There's a lot of ways that I saw him be that I am still today. I carry myself that way. You know, I used to go visit him at work when he worked in Manhattan as a doorman, and he treated people with such respect, and he would like hold doors, and he would just treat people, you know, with a lot of love and affection. And I was like, damn, you know, like that's who he is in the world, you know. And he was an incredible human being to me. To me, he is a man that I'll always love, man. Like, for me, he was a stand-up guy. He didn't do everything perfect, and he he didn't do everything according to the way other people wanted him to do it. That's just not who he was. That's not how things were for him. He always stayed true to himself, and he always did what he wanted to do. He lived his life 100%, however he wanted, despite what the doctor said, despite what anybody said. And was it the right way? Maybe not. Maybe things, could have been different, and he could have prolonged his life. He could have been around longer. And, like for him and my mom and some of my other family members, some of my other aunts and uncles that passed away, definitely it was tough to watch them, like to look the way that they look from the years of drinking and drugging and stuff. Like my mom, I didn't recognize her when I went to get her out the crack house. I didn't recognize, like she was just a shell, and my uncle, he wasn't any different, like he wasn't any different. And it was tough to watch him to like go in the nursing home, and then he used to tell me, like when I would leave, he would say, "Yo, don't leave me here, bro. Take me with you. Just take me home." And that shit used to break my heart, man. I wish I could take him. I could have taken him out. I wish that I could have cared for him like around the clock. But at that point I was living alone, and I couldn't leave him alone in the house. I would have to probably shut off the gas, shut everything off, and like leave him in the house and like lock him in the house. And it wasn't feasible. It wasn't something that could happen. No matter how much I thought about it, no matter how much I wanted to do it, it just wasn't going to be an environment for him where he could be all right, And, like I would bring him food and stuff, and I cut his hair a few times. And, like at that point, like I understood what was going on. I understood that he was about to make his transition, and it sucked because you love people and you want so much more for them. You want the best that life has to offer, and sometimes that's not the story, man. That's not the way it ends. When it comes to the end of people's lives, it's not just cut and dry, man. You gotta suffer their death, as slow as it may be. And his, like my mother's, was slow. It took time. And there were phases of how you had to watch the people you love just start to physically deteriorate and diminish. He was just fading away little by little. And I remember that I went there twice, and they were like, they told me that he wasn't there, or there's no information that they could give me about him because I wasn't on his paperwork. And I didn't know that when I went there twice that meant that he was being taken to the hospital. His kids and I would talk, and the information, like, he was messed up. And I guess, him going to the hospital or being sent to the hospital was like a normal thing because he just wasn't doing good. So it wasn't a thing like of an emergency, right? He's already in a nursing home and he's already not doing good. And, like, he's not doing good. He's in a nursing home. He's sent to the hospital. And I imagine that the thought process is like, yeah, right, he will get sent to the hospital because he's, just really sick, and he just wasn't doing good. So it was kind of like, it was understood that these things were happening, and they were pretty normal for these things to happen. But eventually I got a phone call after I went to the nursing home. He wasn't there. I got a phone call like the next day, and they were telling me like, hey, your uncle's in the hospital, and he's not doing good. We don't know if he's gonna make it or not. And I was getting out of work. I remember getting home after like a 12 or 13 hour shift, and I went and I parked my vehicle, and I took a shower and I went to the hospital. And I wound up showing up to Eastern Hospital, and I went to the emergency room and I was there waiting. And at that point, my cousins were there, and my Aunt Wally was there, his wife, and they were like, yo, they working on him right now. Like, I think they told me that his heart stopped or something like that, and they were trying to revive him. And we were just there like waiting to hear like what took place, what happened, waiting to hear, what they did, what was the outcome. And and then the lady came, and she looked like she was working there for a while, cause she was like a little she was like a little, she looked like she had seen some stuff, and you could tell on her face that she didn't have good news. And my uncle passed away in 2020, and it was 2018 he passed away, and my mom passed away in 2016. And like we went to the back. They told us that we were allowed to go see him. And I saw Booby dead on the table. I saw Booby dead on the hospital bed. Like, as soon as he died, I was right there. Like, I was. And I saw my mother, dead about 12 hours after she passed. But my uncle Landy, I saw him dead. Like, they just finished working on him. Like, they were like pumping, pushing, and shocking him and doing all these different things to his body to try to get him to come back. And it looked like they worked on him for a while. And when I went to see my uncle, that shit freaked me out, man. Like, I saw my uncle, and his eyes were wide open. His legs were open. His arms were open. It looked like they were like trying to work on his chest to try to get him to come back. And the truth is that they weren't able to do anything for him. They weren't able to do anything for him. And when I went in the room, and when I went and I looked at him, his eyes were wide open. His eyes were wide open. The tube was still down his throat, where they were using the bag to try to pump the air into him, and his eyes were completely black. Like, I've never seen something like that ever in my life. It seemed like once his spirit left the body, his eyes just turned black, like if you shut off a TV screen. And I don't know if the blood rushed to his head. I don't know, man. I don't know. All I know is what I saw. And what I saw, I will never forget. And, you know, with Booby, when Booby passed away, even with Mommy, you know, the people, they closed her eyes, they closed his eyes. With my uncle, they just finished working on him. He still had the tube down his throat. The lady came back in and said, sorry, you know, we just finished, like, working on him, like, right now, like, we just finished. And we did the best we can, and, you know, the lady was like, let me clean him up or do, and my aunt was like, nah, leave him like that. Like, just, like, we were already in the room, it was too late. You know, it was too late. And it was unfortunate, but his time here was over. And you know, when we had the services, and I think the kids took care of all of that. They took care, you know, his kids took care of everything for him. And, you know, when I went to the funeral, I seen a lot of people, man. We haven't seen it so long, and that's, you know, funerals are just like reunions. Every time somebody dies, you get to see people you haven't seen in so long. And it sucks that it gotta be that way, but that's just the way it is. Anytime there's a funeral and you know those people, you're gonna see a lot of people you haven't seen in a long time. People come and they show up and they pay their respects. And that's exactly what this was, man. I saw so many people from like back then. I seen some aunts, friends, cousins, and you know, but in the funeral home, I just noticed that my Aunt Wally his wife she was quiet the whole time. And she's never like that. And, you know, like after my uncle died, you know, she wasn't the same after that. She wasn't. And I don't think I know I wasn't. You know, and so I had to mourn, you know, like his loss with my mother's loss, and I had to do it all simultaneously together. It was separate emotions, different people, the same pain, but it's like my mother and my father all together wrapped up in one, you know. And I don't know, man, like I couldn't recover from that shit. And I just went downhill. Like after my uncle died, I really stopped talking to a lot of people. I stopped doing a lot of things. And, you know, I just wasn't the same. I think just like losing all these people, I was just disgusted with life. I was just so angry. I understood why it happened, but it was like, in a lot of ways, I was thinking, why is this happening to me? And I guess that's how a lot of people take it. You know, you feel like, oh, why me? Why is this happening to me? And what I've learned, like now, anybody that I talk to now, I'm like, I have been forged in the fire. Everything that I have gone through was to prepare me for a different life, for a good life, to understand, to appreciate things, and to love people in ways, and to help people in ways that they need the help and they need the love. And you know, I'm okay with that. You know, I get to be there for people. You know, like I go to funerals, and I've been through so many things that I talk to people and I just say things and just try to help them get through because I've been through it. And it's not the type of, this is not like the type of thing that I wanted. I didn't want to lose all these people in order to be there for other people, but it does afford me the opportunity to show up in ways that a lot of people can't, because of my experience and because of the life that I live. I'm very much in touch with a lot of things. And you know, when people lose people that they love, you don't, you know, if you have lost anybody, you understand what it's like. And just a few words, just a hug, just somebody being there, it means everything. And I try to be that for a lot of people. Anybody that I care about and I get the opportunity to do that for, yeah, I do that for them. And I be there. And I be different, and I be loving, and I be caring. And in a lot of ways that it heals my soul. You know, it heals my heart. It heals my broken heart, because there's just a lot of things in there that were broken that I'm getting to heal now as an adult. And it feels amazing to be able to pour out some love for somebody, because I know they need it. And that's what all of this stuff that I've been through, this is where it's helped me to get to a place where I could heal internally, and I could still, you know, share from what's overflowing from within me, because I'm just pouring into Angel. And then I'm able to share love and, you know, be empathetic and sympathetic in so many ways, and reach out and help people and talk them through a lot of stuff. And it's a beautiful thing, man, to be this strong, to be this healthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and to be the man that I am for my kids and for the people that I love today. I could say that I appreciate all the hard times and all the things that I've been through, you know. And I just want to tell anybody that's listening that if you're going through things and you lost people that you never thought would be gone, you know, because it's always a shock to us all, you know. There's a lot of us that have been through that. And I encourage you to lean on people that have been through a lot of them things. Because people got a lot of information, man. They got a lot of things that they could say something that'll make so much sense to you. You know? Once again, if, you know, this is episode 14. I was on vacation. I enjoyed a beautiful waterfall. I enjoyed a Japanese garden. I enjoyed some very, very good company. I experienced climbing up on a slope that I was afraid to deal with, and I dealt with it, and I pushed through it. And I had some very encouraging people helping me get through it. And I experienced some happiness going on vacation like last week. And I just feel a little closer to God, you know. I experienced a love that probably some people in this life never get to experience. And that is forever, gonna be in my heart. And it's something that I'm gonna hold dear forever until I leave here. And I got to experience that, and it's incredible. I'm humbled by it, and I appreciate it. And to the people that were there with me, I love you. You know who you are. And I'm here just sharing my experiences and sharing my pain, sharing the triumph, sharing the downfall, sharing the rising, sharing it all. And I hope, if anything, that you get from these videos, you get a little bit of encouragement to always push forward and look at the brighter side of things, that these things are happening for you, not to you. I know you won't see it in the moment, but it's definitely going to carry you into something, into a better part of your life, and God bless you. If you ever want to reach out, my email is ang3l riv3ra78@gmail.com. Send me a message. Please like, share, subscribe. Send a video to somebody that needs to hear a message. A message of some hope, and some where they could see that there is some hope for anything you go through, no matter what it is. No matter whether it's a terrible childhood, no matter if it's death in a family, no matter if it's impossible odds, drug addiction. I mean, damn, you name it. I've been through it. And I'm sure there's a lot of yets, but still in all, I'm here by the grace of God. I thank God for every day. And God bless you guys. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you on the next one.